This is Steph Curry versus Nikola Jokic. Did the Warriors or Nuggets star have the higher NBA peak? This is a very good question because I was on the Hoop Talk podcast. This is me and Mars's podcast. I will link the description down below I will put the link in the description down below. Can't talk. It's 1 a.m. and I'm juiced up off energy drinks. Yeah, this is a conversation that we had a few months ago, and these were the guys I've had at the two highest offensive peaks in NBA history. I'm not going to spoil where I had either one because you're going to find out at the end of this video, or if you don't want to watch this video, you can go to the Hoop Talk podcast where we talk about both of those players. This is going to be very interesting. I do think this is a really good debate because obviously both of these guys peaked at extreme heights. These guys both revolutionized their position. This is also players these players have gotten a lot of players drafted really high, or a lot of these guys have gotten players paid a lot of money to the point where if some of these guys are guards and they can shoot the ball so well, they're trying to be used as a Steph Curry archetype, or some of these guys are trying to be used as a Jokic archetype. There are some active players or active centers in the NBA that are called Baby Jokic or Bizarro Jokic. They don't play anything like Jokic. Domantas Sabonis and Alperen Sengun don't play anything like Jokic. Derek Queen does not play anything like Jokic. I heard his coach say if he was Caucasian or European, he'd be the first pick in the draft. No, he would not. Anyway, I'm going off into tangents. Let's get into the video.
Button so you don't miss any more of our videos. Also, make sure you follow us.
Once again, shout out to Jason Timp. Really good work on Los Angeles, really good work on the Lakers, and really good content. One day you're going to see him on this channel. I don't know when. I don't know when I'm going to reach out to him, but one day you're going to see him on this channel to discuss the Lakers because I love the way he talks about the Lakers. I really do. I really do. Yeah, probably I'm going to reach out to him. If he comes on, he comes on. If he doesn't, he doesn't. Why not?
All over social media so you don't miss any of our content or show announcements. Hey, Jason, you say that Steph is the second best offensive engine of all time after Jokic. Does this mean you think Jokic is better than Steph as a basketball player, but that Steph's accolades make him higher all time? Yes, that's exactly where I'm at right now. I think that Jokic's peak is higher than any peak of Steph's career, but that his overall accomplishments in the NBA for Steph are so greater at this point that you have to have Steph above Jokic on all-time lists. I thought that Jokic staked his claim as the best player in the world in that 2023 playoff run, right? And here we are going into the 2026 NBA season, and he's still definitively the best player in the world. And no one's really truly threatened that over the course of what will now be the fourth consecutive season. Steph just never had a stretch like that. I thought that Steph was the best player in the world.
Steph also wasn't playing. I mean, Jokic also isn't playing next to a prime LeBron, to be completely fair. Like, this Jokic that we're seeing, would he be the best player in the league in 2016? I don't think he would. I think around 17, 18 is probably where Jokic would be maybe the best player in the league, possibly the best player in the league. 2023, Jokic would probably be the best player in the league in 2018. But in 2016, 2015, people would be saying he's the best player in the league. But yeah, I don't think Jokic would be the best player in the league in 2016, in my opinion. But again, it is what it is. My argument, because I'll just spoil it here, I'll spill the beans here 4 minutes into the video. I think Steph is the greatest offensive peak of all time. I think Steph has the greatest offensive peak of all time. And a lot of that, again, has to do with era, just because in that era, Steph was still playing in the 15-16 season, 16-17, 14-15. I think Steph was still playing with a lot of double big lineups. When you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder with having Steven Adams and Serge Ibaka, when you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers with having Tristan Thompson and Kevin Love, when you look at, I think it was the Detroit Pistons that still had Greg Monroe and Andre Drummond. When you look at the San Antonio Spurs, they had, I think LaMarcus Aldridge was on the team in 2016 or 2017. It was one of those. And Tim Duncan. You look at a lot of these teams and they have double big lineups. And the way Steph Curry is able to demand switches and pick and roll, the ability to have the gravity that he has. Now, I'm not of the belief that you can't have a bad game because of your gravity. I still do think there are bad games, even though Steph does provide so much gravity for his offense. I think Steph Curry Steph Curry gave Draymond Green a very viable offensive role that he would not have gotten on a lot of other teams. And I think that's valuable. I think his transition game, being one of the best transition players of all time, in my opinion, and that's because of the gravity. That's because of the pull-up shooting. That's the 2-on-1 opportunities that Steph provides as a pull-up three-point shooter. The ability to give wide open layups just off of him being on the floor alone. There's a stat that says through 2015 to through 2019, the Warriors had the most percentage of their layups assisted. Like, that is Steph Curry's gravity, the ability to generate wide open layups, the ability to generate wide open cuts to the basket, wide open rolls to the basket, because you have to blitz that pick and roll. You have to switch that pick and roll. And there are moments where Steph is constantly getting switches against Tristan Thompson in the NBA playoffs or against Kevin Love, and that's because you cannot play drop coverage against him. You can't. You cannot hedge. You have to switch or you have to blitz. So that creates opportunities where Steph's on the perimeter against a slow-footed big. That gives opportunities where Draymond's in a 4-on-3 opportunity and he has multiple reads that he can make for cutters like Andre Iguodala or Andrew Bogut, or you have Klay Thompson in the corner. I just think that generates so much offense. Now, there is weaknesses. Steph Curry was not the best against physicality in those years. Cleveland did a really good job of being more physical with him while he was running off the ball, while he was playing in pick and roll, and that did a real number against him. For Jokic, I believe that his weakness could be the scoring aggression. At times, there are times where Nikola Jokic isn't as aggressive as you would want him to be, especially in the situations that sometimes he is in, or the inability to properly position himself for entry passes. He had a problem against that against OKC. That's not a huge weakness, I would say, of his, because, again, a lot of superstar players looked bad against OKC. But I think Steph's almost effortless ability to generate 2 to 3 bodies at a time at his peak, and still now, not as much, but still at the level now, I would say Steph has the best offensive peak. I'm going to just watch what he says, because I basically just spilled all my beans, or I showed my hands 8 minutes into the video, but we're going to go into it.
I think, looking back, that Steph is the best player, was the best player in the world from about the end of the regular season in 2021 until he hoisted the trophy in 2022. That's the one stretch that I can think of where Steph was the best. But it was never definitive. He just had a case. Like, I am in that camp. But I think most folks, I'm in the minority there. Like, most folks think it was Giannis, or that it was Jokic or Luka or someone like that in that group. The biggest difference between those two guys was reliable variance-proof offense, meaning Jokic and Steph. I actually think Steph is every bit as good as like a defense-breaking advantage creator as Jokic. I'd argue if you were just strictly talking about the way that an offensive player can generate openings for teammates, I think Steph is right there at the top with Jokic. The separator for Jokic, for me, is he's variance-proof. His shot-making ability close to the rim consistently is over 50%.
I can definitely understand that. The variance proof with Jokic around the rim, he's the best floater shooter in NBA history. A lot of people believe that. Some people may not believe that. I believe that. In the post, from the paint non-restricted, around the restricted area, the touch around the rim is fantastic. It's fantastic.
And in many cases, over 60%. And so that gives him a certain amount of, like, there's literally nothing you can do. Whereas with Steph, there's a certain amount of like, if we defend him well enough, we can kind of cross our fingers and hope he misses. And even on his best night, he's probably going to miss 6 out of 10 of these, right? And that kind of just created a certain amount of like,
I do not agree with that. On Steph's best night, he could get 12 of them motherfuckers. Like, y'all be forgetting, on Steph's best night, he can go 12 for 18 from three. And that's my separator, because the shot, this is a very bad pause for Jason. Let me that doesn't help either, but who cares? On Steph's best night, he can hit 11 threes. And there's truly nothing you can do. That's my separator, because Steph can go 3 weeks without hitting a single three, and he's going to be guarded like he just made 3 in a row. That's my separator. And sometimes I do feel as though some of that stuff can get overstated. Like, sometimes I feel as though the gravity can be pushed a little further than I would take it, because there are clips of saying Jokic has one of the greatest offensive, or Jokic peaked higher than LeBron because of gravity. I'm not one of those guys that think gravity is the end all be all, but when you have to watch it. You have to watch it, because I'm telling you, every game somebody gets a wide open layup because Steph is on the floor. Every game Steph plays, somebody gets a wide open layup because he's on the floor. Not because he passed the ball, not because he could just be running in transition. He could be running in transition. And the thing is, Steph is the greatest off-ball player of all time. That has to count for something. And he's still extremely dangerous with the ball in his hand. And I'm not even saying just running across screens or just running around the floor. He's setting screens as well. He's running inverted pick and roll. And I feel as though I've only talked about Steph. I do believe Jokic is one of the greatest post-up players we've ever seen. He has one of the best touches around the rim we've ever seen. He's the best passing big of all time. And when you have that ability to outstrength anybody you're going up against, and also have that ability to score at the level that he does, and have the shot making that he does, and be able to play make to the level he does, to the point where you can't send doubles, it's going to be really hard to overbite on the post when he does create a mismatch. I've watched possessions where bigs that are supposed to be contesting Jokic's post-ups are hesitating to contest because he's so deep around the basket, and then you have the dunker right there waiting for the lob pass. It's give or take. It's give or take. It's pick your poison at that point. Once Jokic has established position in the post, it's really hard to decide, do I take away the Jokic play or do I take away the lob? Because either one of those are extremely efficient for him, because he can just make those passes and he can make those tough hook shots.
Game issue that Steph would run into. Steph was a better late game player than the vast majority of players in the league, but just compared to the best players in NBA history, he wasn't quite as reliable getting separation and creating shots for himself at the end of games. And I think that was just kind of a ceiling difference between Steph and Nikola Jokic. But the accomplishments are the accomplishments. Steph has won 4 championships. And even if we pull out the 2 where he played with the greatest roster ever assembled, it's still just too much of a gap for Nikola Jokic to surmount at this point without winning at least one more championship, if not multiple more. So, yeah, I think Jokic's peak was higher. But with Steph, I just think he just has too much in terms of sheer accomplishments for Jokic to lap him on the all-time list at this point. I have Steph pretty high. Now, you guys know how I feel about centers, but the last time I did these rankings, I had Steph ahead of Larry Bird. I have Steph very high in terms of his all-time accomplishments.
It ain't nothing wrong with that either. It ain't nothing wrong with that. Y'all gonna see. Y'all gonna see this Sunday. Y'all gonna see. Because I don't see it with some of these player rankings. I truly don't. But y'all gonna see. Y'all gonna see. That's all I gotta say.
He literally played alongside the greatest player to play the game, in my opinion. At worst, the second best player to ever play the game, and he was like just barely below him. And so that's the game. The greatest player to play the game, in my opinion. At worst, the second best player to ever play the game, and he was like,
he ain't wrong for that statement either. It's again, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it. Like that's where I disagree with the statement he made earlier, saying like Steph wasn't definitively the best player in the league. He was entering his prime when the greatest player in NBA history, in my opinion, was still dominating the league. It just is what it is. It is what it is. You know, a lot of these players that we've seen could have been the best player in the league had LeBron not been in the NBA. Steph would have had his run. KD would have had his run. You know, a lot of guys would have been the best player in the league had LeBron James would not be in the picture.